This is a bear. This is a bear caught in a bear trap. This is a DVSA notification. I think it's a bear trap, and I think you're the bear. Okay, so before we get to the bear trap, let's take a look at some emissions machines. We're in CCM. This is a machine that Boston kindly lent us. This is one we brought in auction the other day because I want to see what it works like. That's one that we're just decommissioning. But let's see what they've all got in common. Start with the Boston. The Boston has got an EODB socket reader that we can check engine oil temperature and revs with. The Boston has also got another oil temperature probe, and underneath here it's got all the bits I need to do engine speed. So we know that that analyzer, connected analyzer, has got two important ingredients, two mandatory pieces of equipment that come with that specification. Okay, this is the Premier Diag one. It's also got an EODB reader. It's also got an oil temperature probe. So that's fully equipped. Now, if I lose that EODB socket or I lose that oil temperature probe, the expectation is that I need to replace them pretty quick because they're mandatory pieces of equipment. Let's move on to the Snap-on one, or Sun or John Bean oil temperature probe. It's got one. I think we replaced it reasonably recently, actually, why it looks so new. And it's got the little EODB reader. That's what we use pretty much all the time, really. Important that both those things are there. I can't stress that enough. That's going to come up in our bear trap. Also, what we are able to do on this machine is we're able to look at the digital emissions printouts. We can look at a diesel one, and we can importantly look at the engine temperature. So I think what we must remember is that no matter what machine you've got, you must have ways to check the engine temperature and the revs. If you don't have them, well, bear trap time. So let's go back in the office, look at the notification, pull it apart and make sure that we're protected. Okay, so we're back in the office and I'm logged in to the MOT testing service. When I go to all messages, there's a message here about emissions testing. That message only went out to AEs and site managers and didn't get to testers, which bemuses me massively because it's testers that do the testing. That aside, let's pull this notification apart because this is our bear trap. Let's work through the notification. Over recent months, the DVSA have increased the amount of emissions tests not being conducted. They haven't increased, they've seen an increase. And it's led to numerous disciplinary cases. We know that this is already happening. The bear trap is live. We're recording this late October. You should be watching it in November. So hopefully you haven't been caught. We acknowledge that in relation to vehicle emissions, the road safety risk is negligible. However, environmental concerns have become a major focus of the UK government. So let's think about this. This is not the DVSA trying to trip us up, laying the bear trap. This is the government via the Department for Transport encouraging the DVSA to tighten up and become very strict on diesel emissions especially. And why are they doing that? Let's jump across to another document and look at the key dates around the ban on diesel and petrol engines in the UK and the EU. So we dial back to 18th of November 2020. The UK announces that no ICE or internal combustion engines after 2030. We jump forward about 3 years. The EU countries, led by Germany, seek to overturn the ban on ICE for the EU, which for them was already 5 years later than us in 2035. In the 20th September 2023, the UK government pushes back the ban on ICE engines and extends that to 2035, which brings us in line with the EU as they currently are. By the time we get towards 2035, I think the EU will have negotiated an extension on that 2035. We'll follow suit, I'm sure. They are getting their sticks in a row, which means we probably need to do the same. Let's drill further down in this notification. Failure to conduct emissions tests to all relevant vehicles indicates testers do not satisfy the requirements of the guide. It goes on, lots of words around it, meaning legal requirements regarding emissions to be emitted. It's vitally important that the general public are assured. So this is a government-led directive, okay? They need to be sure that emissions testing is being done properly. But what the DVSA say, if records are not available, either printouts or digitally, we would consider that the emissions test was not conducted. So there's the bear trap, or part of it. So if you can't prove that you've either got the paper version or the digital version, if you can't prove it, as far as the DVSA are concerned, and they're stating in plain English, it's not a trick, that you didn't do the test. So what happens if you're found to not do the emissions test? You will not be testing. Your VTS will be closed. That's really simple stuff. I'm going to go down a bit further. The JLR guys are going to go, well, we don't have to do it on Jaguar Land Rovers because it does a battery drain. Well, yeah, that was true for some JLR vehicles. Let's have a look at this screen here. With immediate effect, OBD connections, vehicles Land Rover Discovery, Discovery Sport, Evoque and Velar, manufactured 18 to 20, and the F-Pace XEXF 18 to 20. It's only those vehicles that you cannot use the OBD. Most of those vehicles, I think, still have a dipstick hole where you could check the oil temperature there. And then they go on again to reinforce that if the engine speed cannot be measured or the temperature can't be measured, you can use cooling fan cut in, coolant hoses hot, etc. I went back to the DVSA and said, look, you know, is there any sort of wiggle room around this? And they came back and said, if the engine speed cannot be measured, you should use the vehicle tachometer. If the dipstick temperature probe cannot be used, use a temperature gauge, cooling fan. You must remove that. So it's reinforcing what we've looked at before. I think it's important for all of us as testers, as site managers, as ASMs, as AEs, as AEPs, whatever role you've got, to be mindful that the DVSA are able to see the data, they're able to come in, you know, they haven't given you any wiggle room here. You have to comply. And I think because this is led from a government position, if you don't meet the requirements, you are going to get closed down. So there we go. Thanks for watching. Sorry it's such a long video, but I think it's quite an important one. Remember, we're testers, you're testers. Let's stick together. The video you're watching is part of the monthly training for our MOT Juice tribe. They would have seen this training video a few months ago. If you want to watch the up-to-date videos, then you need to be in the tribe. And if you want to be in the tribe, then you need to subscribe.